Everybody, and thank you so much for coming out tonight, especially since the temperature dropped like 20 degrees in the last hour or so. I hope you had your coat with you. So it's my job tonight to catch everybody up on what's going on in Springfield. So it's a little frustrating, to say the least. It's been a crazy, crazy ride this year, actually for the past 2 years, and that's why we need Daniel Viss as our next state governor. We have a governor who changes his ideals on any given day, depending on the way the wind is blowing. And we found that out this week with a very important piece of legislation in the General Assembly right now, which is HB 40. And HB 40 is essential because we call it the trigger law. And right now, the law in Illinois says that if Roe versus Wade were to be overturned, then abortion would be overturned in the state of Illinois. What this legislation would do would be to protect a woman's right to choose in our state. And it would also make sure that women who are on Medicaid or have state insurance would be able to receive those medical services, because this is not a service that you only should deserve if you have the money for it. This has to do with miscarriages, this has to do with tubular pregnancies, so this is something that we need to pass. And in the past, the governor has said, well, he's pro-choice. He and his wife are both pro-choice. And then this week he came out and said, I'm not going to support that legislation because the conservatives have gotten to him and said, oh, that's something that you can't vote for. So I say we need to get that legislation to his desk because we need to put him on the spot. We need to find out where his loyalties lie. And the conservatives have said that, hey, you sign it, we're going to run somebody against you in a Republican primary, which would be fine with me. I got to tell you that. I'd be happier to get rid of him sooner. So that's what would happen if he does sign it. If he doesn't sign it, he's not going to get any votes from the suburbanites, and that will get him out as well. So we need to put him on the spot and make sure he has that. So there are a number of other things going on in the state right now. You've all heard about the grand bargain, that originally the governor was the cheerleader for it. This is something that we have to work on. It's been going on in the Senate. It's cuts, it's revenues, it's reshaping the state of Illinois. And he was all for it until it was actually going to come for a vote. And he told Republicans, if you vote for it, I'm running somebody against you in the primary. So publicly he came out and said that this is such a great thing, and then in private he pulled the rug out from under us, and that legislation was not able to pass. So last week in the House chamber, we passed another stopgap bill, because right now without a budget, our human service providers and our universities are crumbling. And we need to do something to get them some funding so they at least can move forward a little bit. So this legislation gives both universities and human service providers a lump sum total of about $750 million. These are dollars that are currently sitting in funds doing nothing. And so we need to make sure that these dollars get out. $258 million approximately would go to social service agencies that have not received any funding under court orders or consent decrees. That's about 37% of their annual appropriation. So this would stop some of their bleeding. This would allow them to pay back their 2016 bills, but it is not enough. The higher education funding is about $559 million. $287 million of that would go towards MAP grants. We have students who receive these monetary assistance programs, funds, these grants, and if they owe a debt to a university, they cannot graduate. And some universities have said, well, we've let this slide up until now, we can't afford to let it slide anymore. And so in order for these seniors to get their diplomas, they need to pay back this debt to the university. So we're doing that to our students who have worked so hard that we're going to pull the rug out from under them at the last minute, and that's not right. $50 million of that funding would go towards job training. And then we'd have $159 million that would go between the universities in the state and another $36 million that would go to community colleges. This money is essential because if we do not fund some of these programs, we will not get federal matching grants. So it would be a double whammy to these universities and some of these other schools and programs. Just a few other things that I want to hit on before I pass it on. There are some pieces of legislation that I think everybody in this room would probably be interested, and a lot of it has to do with immigration. We have resolutions pending in the House and in the Senate condemning the administration for their stance on immigration and refugees, and also saying, do not build this wall, because this wall will not only impact people personally and divide families, but it's also an environmental train wreck. And it would divide ecosystems and do terrible things to our whole entire environment, and we cannot let that happen. We also have another House bill known as the Safe Zones Act, and this would bar immigration officials from entering state-funded elementary schools, high schools, institutions of higher learning, healthcare centers, unless they have a valid court-issued warrant. Because what we are finding right now is there are officers who are knocking on doors, and when people don't know their rights, they're let in. And as a result of that, people are being arrested. And we have to make sure that people know where they can be safe and that they know the law when it comes to that. We also have another bill called House Bill 3099, and it's the Illinois Trust Act. And what this says is that local law enforcement will not work with ICE, because that would destroy the trust that our local law enforcement has with its communities. And if the federal government wants to practice their right, that's fine, but keep our locals out of it. You know, we want to protect the people who live within our communities. So that's a little bit of an update on what's going on in Springfield. We are not back next week. We're back the week after, and the week after, I have to say, we are going to be fighting for some very important environmental bills. I see Doug Gerleman in the back. We want to ban coal tar in the state of Illinois, which is something that we've been working on for 3 years now. We're making some progress, but not enough. And we need that budget. And with that, I'm going to say, please write, email, call, and let's get our agenda out there. So thank you.